अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है वो बायोकेमिस्ट्री का फुल पीछे से रिवीजन है चैप्टर नंबर 1 की। तो सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ बायोकेमिस्ट्री। जैसे कि मैंने दिखाया है कि वर्ड बायोकेमिस्ट्री का मीन क्या है। बायो का मीन हम पहले से पढ़ते हैं कि बायो मीन्स लाइफ एंड द केमिस्ट्री मीन chemical reactions, all the chemical reaction which are occurring inside the living body. Okay, अब now we discuss the definition of biochemistry. What is defined by biochemistry? हमने इसके literal meaning समझ लिए हैं. Now we move on is definition that the branch of biology that deals with the study of all metabolic reactions that occur inside the living organism, and it also called as biological chemistry. यानी इट इज़ अ ब्रांच, ये एक ब्रांच है बायोलॉजी की जिसमें हम क्या करते हैं, स्टडी करते हैं क्या, ऑल द मेटाबॉलिक रिएक्शन, यानी बहुत सारे मेटाबॉलिक रिएक्शंस हैं जो हमारी लिविंग बॉडी के अंदर होते हैं, जैसे ग्लाइकोलाइसिस हो गया, जैसे हर तरह के डाइजेस्टिव रिएक्शन होते हैं, हर तरह के लाइसोसोमल रिएक्शंस होते हैं हमारी बॉडी के अंदर, और इसको हम बायोकेमिस्ट्री कहते हैं. एंड इट आल्सो कॉल्ड, इसका जो सेकंड नेम है दैट इज़ बायोलॉजिकल केमिस्ट्री. All the metabolic reaction take place in a material which is called as protoplasm. ये सारे metabolic reaction एक material में होते हैं जिसे हम प्रोटोप्लाज्म कहते हैं. प्रोटोप्लाज्म मीन, प्रोटोप्लाज्म में हमारा क्या इंक्लूड है, प्रोटोप्लाज्म में हमारा साइटोप्लाज्म और न्यूक्लियस इंक्लूड है. हम लोग प्रोटोप्लाज्म में सेल वॉल या सेल मेम्ब्रेन को एक्सक्लूड करके बाकी जो सेल के अंदर होता है हम उसको प्रोटोप्लाज्म कहते हैं. और बॉडी परफॉर्म ऑल द रिएक्शन इन ऑर्गेनाइज वे. ठीक है, इफ़ आवर बॉडी कैन नॉट परफॉर्म ऑल द रिएक्शन इन ऑर्गेनाइज वे देन आवर बॉडी बिकम डिजीज, देन वी आर diseased. So it means if our body not performing well, then it means all the metabolic reactions are not occurring in organized way. So therefore, if all these reactions are organized, then we are a disease person. Okay, now what is the importance of biochemistry? That it helps to improve our life, it helps for the survival of all the life on the earth present here, and it also modify the quality of life, not increase the days. What is mean by this line? That it improve our life, it tell us that what we eat, what make us healthy, what kind of food we eat to make a healthy life, and what that it aware us that we should do exercise every day so that we can improve our life, we can make our life beautiful. We can't increase the days of our life because it is written on our faith, we can't increase a single day of our life. It is a fixed time which is fixed by our God and we don't know what it is, but we can improve our life, but we can better our health, but we can improve our living style by knowing the biochemistry, by studying the biochemistry. So therefore biochemistry is really essential for all the students to learn it, to understand it. Okay, now what is the evolution of biochemistry? Biochemistry ki evolution, it is a youngest and the latest branch. It is evolved in this modern age. So it is the youngest and the latest branch. Now we have to discuss that it started an offshoot of physiology, that this branch also relate with the physiology. Okay, and it evolved in the second half of the 20th century because it is the latest branch, and it explains the mechanism of various actions which are performing inside our body. Now we discuss the branches of biochemistry. We know that there are many branches of biochemistry, but the major are the three branches. First of all is organic chemistry, then inorganic chemistry, and third is physical chemistry. Okay, now biochemistry has important role to evolve other terms like pharmaceutics, physiology, therapeutics, pathology, bacteriology. Now biochemistry has role to solve all the clinical problems and give also their solutions. So it is very important point about the biochemistry. Now how biochemistry improve our health? Biochemistry has improved our health by providing us vaccinations, hormones, syrup, injections, and antioxidants, and these are very very important things that saved our life. For example, in corona vaccine has saved our life. So this vaccine come out, we study vaccines and different things in biochemistry. So biochemistry has important role to save our life, so that's why we study it in every part of our life, in every field of our life. Now the next thing is, what is biomolecules? What is biomolecules mean? The molecules which are present in organism and that are essential for the biological processes, all the biological processes which are occurring inside our body, and it is also called as biological molecules. For example, various carbohydrate, various protein, various lipid, various enzyme, various hormones, various vitamins, various nucleic acid, all these things are present as a biomolecule inside our living body, and they play important role in the regulation, in the maintenance of our body. Now biochemistry discover various deficiencies, that if we get ricket disease, then what kind of deficiency occur inside our body and we get a disease. Then we get anemia, we get survey, we get various kind of diseases, but what kind of deficiency occur, then this disease occur. Okay, now we discuss the latest inventions of the biochemistry. What are the latest invention? First of all, recombinant DNA technology. ठीक है, then gene mapping, then gene profiling, then cloning, then genetic engineering. All these are important invention of the biochemistry, and we are dealing with all these terminologies today. Now it also provide chemical tests for the diagnosis of disease, that if biochemistry are not present at all, then we can't do any test, then we can't do any diagnosis of a disease. Okay. It also caused evolutionary changes over the 3.5 billions of years, and when its first life appeared, yani when the first life appeared, this biological chemistry undergo changes, and then it evolved and came front in all of us. Now we have a Viva questions, that is, what is the abbreviation of LFTS and what is the abbreviation of RFTS? The abbreviation of these are liver functioning test and the renal functional test. These are the diagnosis tests for the liver and the kidney, which are given to us by the biochemistry. Now we have important branches of biochemistry. This can be a question that could be asked to you, and important of biochemistry, that could be a question, very important question. Now we move on the next part, next topic we have to discuss. Now the next topic is very important, and it is carbohydrate metabolism. This is the chapter name. This is our first chapter. First of all, I discussed the introduction of biochemistry. Now we move on the first topic of our biochemistry, that is carbohydrate metabolism. First of all, carbohydrate is a biomolecule, and metabolism means breakdown, that how carbohydrate break down in our body. First of all, before the breakdown of carbohydrate, we discuss the carbohydrate, that what is carbohydrate and why we study its metabolism in ourselves. First of all, we define carbohydrate, that what it is and why it is essential, that why we study it. First of all, carbohydrate is a polyhydroxy aldehyde or ketone or its subdivisions. Okay, it contains one or more OH group. Therefore, it is called polyhydroxy. Poly mean many, hydroxy mean hydroxyl group. ठीक है, it has many OH group but have a single aldehyde or have a single ketone group that could be present on it. Whether it is aldehyde group and whether it is ketonic group, that could be but a one aldehyde or one ketone group must be present on it. Now the next term is that they are 1% of the total, that the quantity of carbohydrates in our body is very small, that it is total 1% of our body mass. and it is most abundant organic molecule in nature. If we see in the nature, then among the organic molecules, all the organic molecules, for example cellulose and different kinds of carbohydrate present in our nature, in plants, in animals body, all the things have carbohydrate, but our body has small amount of carbohydrates, only 1%. Now, literary word carbohydrate means hydrated carbon. Hydrated carbon means that carbon plus water, hydrated. This is the old definition, but now the modern definition is that it is the polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone group. Okay. Now its empirical formula is CH2N, and could be equal to or greater than 3. Now we further discuss that what is the occurrence of carbohydrates. Now occurrence क्या है कि carbohydrate is in the form of cellulose. I discussed earlier that plant contains cellulose, and cellulose is the cotton, and cotton is the pure form of cellulose, pure carbohydrate. Okay, and it is found in the cell wall of plants, cell wall of trees, and various cell membranes. ठीक है, and it also serves as a structural component of many organisms, including cell wall of bacteria. Insoluble carbohydrates are present inside the bacteria's cell wall, and it play important role in their structural manufacturing, in their regulation of their shape, in their stability, and it also found in exoskeleton of many insects. May mean that it not only in present in human body, it not only present in plant, but it also present in the small insects. ठीक है, it present in the exoskeleton of these insects and fibrous cellulose of plant. Now, and it is 1% of the human body, so human body has very small amount of carbohydrate, that we need small amount of carbohydrate. Okay, now what is the importance? Carbohydrate has great importance in our lives. First of all, it acts as a source of food, it acts as a source of energy which is provided to us by our diet. Okay, it is a source of sugar, it is a source of starch, it is a source of various things that play important role in our body, and it help in the intracellular communication, and it also converts sugar and provide energy to all the cells, all the tissues which are present in our body. Now the next thing is the important note that is written on the top of the page, that is the full set of chromosome produced by an organism is called glycome. That we see that a body whole set of genes is called as genome, so whole set of carbohydrates is called as glycome. Now polymer of carbohydrate mean various carbohydrates are combined together by glycosidic bond, and then they form glycans. These glycans can be oligosaccharide, can be polysaccharide, can be disaccharides, and various types of the carbohydrates, and these collectively called as glycans. Okay. Now, importance of carbohydrates have another point, that they play important role in the seed germination and the vegetative growth. Mean that they play important role in the growth, in the germination of a plant from their seed to a whole tree. ठीक है, then you see that how carbohydrates are important for human being and also for the insects and plants which are present all over the earth. Now we discuss the classification and the nomenclature of carbohydrates. First of all, we discuss classification, that carbohydrates are divided into three major groups. First of all, monosaccharide, then aldose and ketose, and then glycosides. What is monosaccharide? We see a detail written over here. First of all, monosaccharides are colorless and they are crystalline solids. These are the properties of monosaccharide, that they are colorless, they have no color, and they are crystalline solid in the form. They are most abundant. So monosaccharide is D-glucose, and it also called as dextrose. Then you can note it on your notes. Now, what is the definition of monosaccharide? That it consists of single polyhydroxy aldehyde or ketone unit. What is mean by this definition? Polyhydroxy mean many hydroxyl group, but they have single carbohydrates mean they have single aldehyde or ketonic group. Whether it could be aldehyde, whether it could be ketonic group. Mono means, what is literal meaning? That mono means one. And the saccharide is derived from the Greek word saccharine, and the saccharine means sugar. But it is empirical formula. Its empirical formula is CH2 bracket 1 and n could be equal to 3. Okay, it cannot be greater than 3, but it cannot be smaller than 3, but it could be greater than 3, and 3 could be. Okay, now it also called as simple sugars. They can be aldehyde or ketone group. I have further explained it. If a monosaccharide have aldehyde sugar, then it called as aldox. And if monosaccharide have ketone sugar, then it called as ketose. It is really important. And further, there are properties of monosaccharide that they cannot be further hydrolyzed, mean that if we cannot break down monosaccharide into their simpler units, because monosaccharide itself is a simple unit. So it is a simple sugar, it cannot be hydrolyzed into its monomer, it is itself a monomer. So it is soluble in water, and they have very sweet taste, they are very tasty. Now we have a note written on there that monosaccharide more than 4 carbon tends to have cyclic structure, मतलब D glucose dextrose. ठीक है, we see that the monosaccharide have maximum 3 or more than 3 carbon atoms, but monosaccharide with 3 carbon atom have a straight chain structure. But if we have a monosaccharide and which have more than 4 carbon atoms, then this structure of monosaccharide will be converted into a cyclic structure, and it become D-glucose and dextrose. So we move on to the next page. So I will discuss this chicken oats. I forget to discuss it. Now I am discussing it. Yes, initial study of showed that the carbohydrates has CH2 formula, and a compound containing CH2O are considered as carbohydrates. We see that it called as hydrated carbon, but it is a lateral concept, it is old concept. ठीक है, but modern studies show that they are the hydrated carbon. They has nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur. They have also contain heteroatoms in the, or not only they have carbon and hydrogen and oxygen, they also contain nitrogen, sulfur and different compounds in their structure. Carbohydrates provide energy. We see that they are important, that they are the major source of energy, but they provide two types of energy. First of all, they provide radiant energy, and second, they form stored energy, which is stored in our body as a fat. And now carbohydrate is a basic structure of a cell and a tissue. Classification of carbohydrates can be classified into the four groups. First of all, monosaccharide. They contain only one saccharide. Simple. They have R, C double bond, O, R. This is the carboxyl group, and two R groups are attached. Oligosaccharide, polysaccharide and derived carbon. Nomenclature of monosaccharide. First of all, they have generic name, and then they have type of group. Generic name mean aldo, and the group type of group, for example, hexose for the glucose have aldehyde group, therefore it has generic name aldo, and glucose has 6 carbon group, so therefore it is called as hexose. So the nomenclature the name of glucose can be called as aldohexose. Now fructose can be called as ketohexose. Now monosaccharide physical properties are discussed here, which I explain to you that they are crystalline, white solid, soluble in water, have very sweet taste, and they can't be hydrolyzed into their monomers because they are itself monomers. डायसेक्राइड की फिजिकल इंपॉर्टेंस हम बता देंगे. उसके बाद हमने कहना है कि अल्फा डेक्स्ट्रिन इट इज़ अ पॉलीमर ऑफ 8 ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल्स. नाउ द नेक्स्ट वी हैव another disaccharide which is trehalose. Trehalose is a dimer and two glucose linked by 1,1 linkage in trehalose. Now we have example of heteropolysaccharide which could be discussed later, but you have to write it. That they have example glycosamine, glycan, glycoconjugates and mucilages which are present in peptines. Now we have derived carbohydrate products which are derived from the carbohydrate. Various groups which are attached to the carbohydrate and form derived carbohydrate. By oxidation, glucose and ascorbic acid produced. ठीक है. Conjugate molecules are also produced with the help of carbohydrate. That these carbohydrates combined with protein, combined with lipid and combined with nucleic acid to form glycoprotein, glycolipid and glyconucleic acid. Now we move on to the next page. Yes. Now we move to the we have to discuss the physical properties of monosaccharide. We have discussed it. Now important note written here that in open chain one carbon has double bond with oxygen while the other bonded to the hydroxyl group. That what is meant by this line I explain to you. In open chain mean we say that 3 carbon monosaccharide is present in the open chain and more than 4 carbon the monosaccharide converted itself into the circular shape. Now if in open chain one carbon we see if we have open chain of monosaccharide and its one carbon has double bond with oxygen while the other bond is hydroxyl group. What is explained by it? I explain to you. For example, this is the structure of D-glucose. It has one carbon which is doubly bonded with oxygen atom, and while the other carbon atom is single bonded with hydroxyl group. You can see here they are singly bonded with hydroxyl group. One carbon is double bonded to oxygen while the other are single bonded with hydroxyl group. Now we discuss the structure of fructose. Here it is. It is one carbon with double bond oxygen while the all other carbon have OH group, single OH group attached with a single bond. Now we discuss the classification of monosaccharide. Monosaccharide has a classification. First of all, monosaccharide classify on the base of number of carbon atoms which is present inside it. First of all, it has 3 carbon, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. ठीक है. First of all, they have generic name such as triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, heptose, octose, nonos. Octose नहीं है, nanos. Now, aldehydic examples of these that triose can be called as in aldehydic group as glycer aldehyde, tetrose called as erythrose. Now, 4 carbon carried as 5 carbon can covered as ribose and 6 glucose, 7 hectoglucoheptose and 9 carbon is called as uramic acid. This is aldehydic examples. We have ketonic example also, which is dihydroxyacetone for the 3 carbon, 4 carbon ethyrolysis, 5 carbon ribolysis, 6 carbon fructose, 7 pseudoheptulose, while the 9 carbon have given no ketone example. Now we move on to the second division, that is aldose and ketose. Carbohydrate having aldehydic group is called as aldose and it is a aldo sugar, and it is the most oxidized functional group, and it always present at the end of the chain, not present in the center, not present, it is always present at the end of the chain. Example, glyceraldehyde. We can give glucose and glyceraldehyde. This is the formula of aldehyde, that it had a aldehyde group, and then we have OH chain, and this is called glycer. It is aldotriose, 3 carbon triose. It is aldohexose, glucose, D-glucose. Okay. Deoxyribose has a formula C5H10O4. Okay. Now we move on the ketones. Carbohydrates with ketonic group is called as ketose. Most oxidized functional group, and due to ketone group, its sugar is called as ketosis. It never occur at the end, it present at the middle. Remember it. Now we have example, D-fructose is called ketohexosis, and the other example is ketotriose. It is called a dihydroxyacetone. Now we have important points that discuss here, that ketosis has cellulose, loose as a suffix that added at the end of it, but exceptional is for fructose, because carbohydrate with free carbonyl group has suffix os. ठीक है, os. Why we call that is ketose. ठीक है, बिकॉज फ्रूटोस में एक फ्री कार्बोनाइल ग्रुप है, इसकी वजह से इसके साथ ओस आता है, लेकिन हम लोग कीटोन्स के एंड में लूज लगाते हैं, जैसे राइबोलूज, रिथ्रोलूज. ठीक है, लेकिन फ्रूटोस में हम ये नहीं लगाते, क्योंकि फ्रूटोस में क्या है, हमारे पास एक फ्री कार्बोनाइल ग्रुप होता है. Okay, I hope that you will understand it. Now we'll move on to the next, and it is glycosides. What are glycosides? That monosaccharide links with each other with a glycosidic bond, and they form a long structure, a large structure, a huge structure, and it is called a glycoside. And examples of glycoside is lactose and sucrose. The formula of sucrose is given here, that it is D-glucose. In the ring structure, its formula is carbon CH double bond O, add carbon number 3, OH and H group inverted, then OH and H and H. This carbon number 1 form bond with the carbon number 2 of the fructose. This is the structure of fructose. D-fructose it's also called as alpha D glucopyranose, and it also called as beta D fructofuranosides. ठीक है, now this is 1-2 linkage is sucrose, and it is also called as cane sugar या table sugar. Now we have another example, which is lactose. It is glycogen, and it is glucose, and its this like form is formed. It is 1-4 linkage, beta 1-4 linkage of glucose and galactose. So it is called a galactosyl B1,4 glucose. Now what is the branches of glycosides? Branches क्या हैं? First of all, disaccharide means having 2 monosaccharides. Oligosaccharide having 3 to 10 या 12 भी हम कह सकते हैं monosaccharide. These are the short chain of monosaccharide. ठीक है, polysaccharide more than 10 or 12 monosaccharide. What are the examples? What of our disaccharide have glucose and glucose mean lactose, glucose and fructose combine to form sucrose, and maltose is formed by glucose and glucose. Oligosaccharide has example glycoprotein and raffinose. Polysaccharide has example glycogen and cellulose and starch. Glycogen is branch, cellulose is linear. While polysaccharide had example have different groups, such as homopolysaccharide have one type, heterosaccharide had different types. Note, glycogen and cellulose both are recurring units of glucose. Okay, sucrose is not a recurring unit of glucose because it has a fructose in it. It has one glucose and one fructose, so therefore it is not recurring unit of glucose. Only glycogen and cellulose is the recurring unit of glycogen. Now we have a detailed study on monosaccharide, disaccharide, sucrose, maltose, lactose. All these structures are explained here, which should be discussed on the next lecture.